The old Grand King was dead. The crown now rested on the head of King Theron. Young, powerful, and afraid, the royal high priest delivered a prophecy that echoed like thunder. A god will be born as a child in this kingdom. This child will bring wealth, fear, and everlasting glory. But there was a catch. The gods did not say the child would be male, and that silence would soon destroy everything. In the heart of West Africa, nestled within the emerald embrace of the Nimba Mountains, lay a kingdom of unparalleled power. Heir, the very earth pulsed with iron ore, forged by its people into wealth and legend. This was a land of ancient trees, close-knit communities, and a prophecy that promised unimaginable blessings, a royal baby, a godchild, destined to bring fortune. A silent, deadly war raged within the palace walls. Each new royal birth sparked a frantic dash to the high priest, eager to discover if their child was the promised star. Every royal wife, every concubine, every princess, all wanted to give birth to the godchild. King Theron, freshly crowned after his father's passing, felt the immense weight of his new title. Not only was he expected to rule with wisdom, but he bore the heaviest burden of all, to present a royal heir, because without a male heir, his crown felt borrowed. The king's uncles, observing his anxiety, exchanged knowing glances, their amusement barely concealed. Only Defy, the youngest uncle, known for his quiet demeanor and love for exploring distant lands, remained unfazed. Meanwhile, Queen Nemaya, gentle and dignified, carried the king's first child. One stormy night, the palace heard a newborn cry. Joy rushed through the halls. The baby was brought to the king. He looked once, silence, then rage. He shouted, "A girl!" The king turned his back. "Take it away. A girl cannot carry destiny. Only a male child can bring goodwill and inherit this sacred throne." He stormed off, rejecting his own flesh and blood, leaving Queen Nemaya heartbroken, her baby unwanted. One fateful day, Queen Nemaya, her heart heavy but resolute, carried her daughter, Kavri, to the king's court. She pleaded for acceptance, begging him to present their child to the high priest. She knelt. She begged. "Let the high priest see her. Please." The king snapped. "Throw the child into the forest." The court froze. Nemaya screamed, "Then dethrone me, but let me raise my child." The king agreed, cruelly. That same day, the king announced, Queen Nemaya dethroned, Kavri abandoned. A grand ball was decreed, ushering in a new queen. Nemaya, stripped of her title, was exiled to a small dwelling at the palace's edge, clinging to her infant daughter. Soon, the new queen bore a son, whom the king proudly named his royal heir. Yet, the high priest's pronouncement was a puzzle. The lucky baby has been born, but none of the royal children presented bear the star of the gods. Nemaya and Kavri were given a small place at the edge of the palace lands. But something strange kept happening. Anyone who touched Kavri with kindness became lucky. A farmer found gold. A maid married a rich merchant. A child healed of a cursed illness. And when Kavri spoke, things happened. Prince Dafia, who became her adopted father, visited often. He laughed with the child, played with her, protected her. Soon, his fortunes exploded. He became wealthy, then powerful, then beloved. Soon, people began to whisper, the godchild was abandoned. Prince Dafia used his newfound wealth to uplift the poor, his popularity soaring across the kingdom, a stark contrast to the king's increasingly isolated court. The king, haunted by the high priest's words, grew desperate, wondering which royal prince would finally sire the prophesied ruler. When Kavri turned 4, the palace trembled again. A golden flute appeared in the royal shrine. No one knew how. None could lift it. It glowed. It hummed. No prince could lift it. No priest could explain it. Kavri declared with quiet certainty. Mother, it is mine. That flute is mine. I must go to the palace. Nemaya, her heart filled with hope, spoke to Dafia, who, seeing Kavri's unwavering conviction, agreed to escort her to the palace, granting access to the royal shrine. King Theron, intrigued by the whispers, declared whoever could lift the flute and explain its significance would be handsomely rewarded. The king declared, whoever lifts this flute shall live in the palace forever. As princes and princess and others strained and failed, Kavri stepped forward. Laughter rippled through the crowd. I'll make a bet, Kavri declared, her small voice cutting through the noise. If I fail, I'll hop home like a frog. But if I succeed, I will be the sole custodian of the flute. The king, eager to humiliate her and her mother, readily agreed. Kavri walked towards the glistening flute, which seemed to sing just for her. With one small, graceful hand, she lifted it effortlessly, holding it high for all to see. A collective gasp rose from the court. The laughter died, replaced by stunned silence. Could this be the prophesied godchild, the one the king had so carelessly cast aside? The king, mortified, attempted to renege on his bet, but Kavri, now fully imbued with her regal power, raised the flute. Anyone who disobeys a royal bet, she commanded, her voice resonating with ancient power, shall face the heavens' wrath. With a flash of light, the king's entire court was compelled to keep to his word and went back to the palace in defeat, to the mock glances of the maids and common folks. The abandoned princess, with her mother, now resided in the palace, claiming her rightful place. Days later, tragedy struck again. King Theron's closest friend and iron merchant was assassinated by a rival kingdom. The king was drowning in rage and grief and regret at his misfortune, and also losing his power and authority over his people because of his cruelty. Kavri became the kingdom's radiant star, people traveling from distant lands for her blessings. She granted wishes, lifted curses, and guided her adopted father, Prince Dafia, to victories in both war and trade. The new queen, consumed by bitter jealousy, plotted Kavri's demise. She plotted poison. But Kavri, a godchild, saw thoughts before actions. The poison was switched and the queen's own son died. Truth came out and the queen was imprisoned. The kingdom wept for the young heir. And the king broke. The king, overwhelmed by the loss of his son and consumed by his past regret of casting his daughter away, succumbed to a debilitating illness. Royal physicians were powerless. Kavri was called to his bedside. You disregarded me when I was vulnerable, she stated, her voice tinged with the sorrow of past hurt. The strength of your curse has entered your heart. The king pleaded for forgiveness, but it was too late. His strength failed him, and he passed away, his reign ending in the shadow of his own disregard. With the king's passing, Prince Dafia, the kindest and most humble, ascended the throne. Under his wise and compassionate rule, guided by the profound insights of Queen Nemaya and the divine wisdom of Princess Kavri, peace and prosperity blossomed once more. The kingdom flourished, knowing that true power lay not in command, but in compassion, and that the greatest blessings often came from the most disregarded places. Kavri, the girl once cast aside, became the true star of Nimba. Her legacy was etched in every prosperous harvest, every healed heart, and every wise decision.